Hello, my name is Aaron Roberts. So the rent prices in Cluj went up massively year on year. And a lot of people blame this on the fact that there are students coming from abroad. Or a lot of people blame this on the fact that IT is growing in Cluj and that people are making more money here than they ever did before. And it's just not 100% true. I'll tell you why. Students who rent in Cluj come to Cluj because they want to save money, because they don't have the sort of money they can spend on the rental prices and the education costs back home. Some people also hear it's a great city and they want to try something different. There is an exception. IT has grown in Cluj, but it's a very small percentage of the population of Cluj that work in IT. So why is it that all of the base rent prices went up so massively year on year? 17%, 20%, even more in some cases. A two-room apartment which I was renting 4 years ago when I first moved to Cluj was 200 euros. As an exception, it's being rented at 230 right now because the owner understands that it's good to have a long-term trustworthy tenant and a stable income than it is to have a high rent and someone who's going to be in and out of the apartment because they can't afford it. Okay? So that's a different thing. But I want to move on from that to another short story about another apartment I rented. So I moved from that 200 euro apartment to a 300 euro apartment for the sake of an extra room because I have a photo studio and I wanted to make use of that space. That apartment was rented to me for 300 euros. I painted the walls through my own choice. It could have stayed as it is. I painted all the walls white, fresh, ceiling, walls, everything, with the help of a friend, better say that. I replaced the shower cabin. The shower cabin was damaged, it needed replacing. I replaced the shower cabin. I didn't pay for it, I took it out of my deposit and I fitted it myself. I replaced the bed. The bed in that apartment was 30 years old. It had to be, from the 80s. It was terrible. It really hurt my back. I got rid of it. I lived there for 1 year. I loved it. It was great. One day the owner comes around and says, I want to increase the rent. How much do you want to increase the rent by? 70 euros. So that apartment went from 300 to 370 euros. I asked him why. Why do you want to do that? Because everybody else is doing it. Right now you can only get a two-room apartment in Cluj for no less than 350 euros. And this is a three-room apartment. The kitchen was big. Called it a three-room apartment. So I'm increasing the rent. What happened? I couldn't pay that. I ended up moving to Flores because I couldn't find a normal rent in Cluj. I lived there in Flores for 6 months and it impacted my life a lot more than I thought it ever would. Anyone who thinks that Flores is in Cluj is wrong. It's 2 or 3 bus stops away, but it's an hour extra on your commute and nobody's going to visit you. It's too far and the transport's just not good enough. So I was forced out of the city by the greed of the owner of the apartment, and that's not fair, is it? Let's be honest, it's not fair. It didn't cost him any more to rent that apartment to me than it did the previous year. Maybe he saw the fact that I painted everything and made improvements, made it worth more, and he decided to say, okay, bye-bye. Or maybe it was just because everyone else was increasing the rent. There's this serious issue with I don't want to be left out syndrome. This problem is that all the rent prices are going up because there are major investments in the city. You're talking Platinia, areas in Bună-Ziua which have brand new apartment buildings that are renting for much higher prices. Hello, Platinia is a luxury development. Some of the apartments in that building cost 250,000 euros, €250,000 for an apartment in Cluj. That's also very high, but they're very beautiful apartments. So there are some people who have that sort of disposable income to make those investments. But it's not okay to then base your rent prices on some of the transactions that they're going through, on some of these luxury investments. I've seen some of these old apartments in Cluj, these communist buildings that have been around since like the 70s, going for 300 to 400 euros for a one-room apartment with very bad furniture. Ultra-finisat is a word used only and should only be used in places like Platinia where you have luxury furniture. I'm talking about when you walk in, lights turn on and music starts playing your favorite song. That is luxury. IKEA or Jysk furniture is not luxury, it's normal. Anything below that, we're talking anything predating 1999 or year 2000, is classic. It's old. It needs replacing. And some of the bathrooms I've seen of some of these apartments that are for rent, you're going to be kidding me. Cutting edge tiles, tiles that cut you with their edges as you walk by them because they're jagged and sharp. So this video is for students really to understand, and not just students, but anyone renting in Cluj. You should be paying these stupidly high prices. A two-room apartment outside of the city centre, that's anywhere that's not central, that's anywhere that's not in the centre of the city. Mănăștur, Gheorghen, Grigorescu, Zorilor, Măraș, these areas, you shouldn't be paying more than 250 euros maximum, or 270 maximum for a two-room apartment. Just shouldn't be. If it's a one-room apartment, you shouldn't be paying more than 200 euros. And when I say room, I'm talking bedroom. The kitchen in the same room as you sleep, you should be looking at 200 euros. If you're sleeping with your refrigerator keeping you awake, Arctic machine from 1950, not really that old, and it's keeping you awake at night, you should not be paying more than 200 euros. Doesn't matter where you are. If you're in the city, maybe 250, depending on the conditions and exactly where you are. It's just not okay. If you're renting an apartment in the center of the city, it's under 300 euros, but it's a decent apartment with modern furniture in a very good location. I understand your reason for renting the apartment for 250, 270 euros. But that's still quite close to the limit. Just to put it into perspective, I'm renting a two-room apartment in the center of the city, and I mean the center of the city, Eroilor, for 350 euros. The guy who owns this apartment understands that it's good to have a tenant who's going to look after his property and respect his property for a long period of time to your contract than it is to have a short-term tenant who's going to struggle with money and eventually leave because they can't afford it. You have an empty apartment for a longer period of time and you have people moving in and out. That will cost you in the long run if the tenant leaves. So now here's the message for the real estate owners. Don't say that just because foreign people are coming to Cluj that it's okay to rent to a higher price. It's the reason they're coming here is because they want to save money. So if you're going to charge European rental prices, they're not going to come here, which means you're not going to find someone to pay your rent. And if your goal is to get people out of the city, then I'm sorry, but you're selfish, and I'll tell you why. If people leave the city because they can't afford to live in it, it will affect not just you and your rents, but it will affect the local businesses, where these people invest and they spend money in this city to go to bars, restaurants, cafes, nightclubs, pubs, everything. They're investing their disposable income in this city, which affects our economy, which affects everything about what makes Cluj desirable. If people don't live here, people don't spend money. If people don't spend money, businesses close down. If businesses close down, the city's not desirable, and then who's going to rent your apartment? And if you've just invested in an apartment and people are starting to leave, you've made a poor investment decision and you've contributed directly to the cause. If you've just invested in an apartment in Cluj and you've paid a high price compared to what it was 3 years ago, you're probably going to end up eating your investment, because at the end of the day, in 3 to 5 years or so, this market is not going to be paying your rent prices that you're charging right now. Real estate agents, don't be selfish. We understand you're making money from your commission, but your job is very simple. You look at an apartment. Isn't it nice? Yes, it's wonderful. Would you take it? Absolutely. Thank you very much. And you've just made a commission between 50%, 40 to 50%. That's a lot of money for doing not very much, especially when you consider how desirable property is in Cluj. Right now is the best time to be a real estate investor in Cluj. A real estate agent in Cluj. Get on it. Register a business, become a real estate agent. That's great. But you're going to be in the exact same situation. And what's hard for you is, and I've been speaking to somebody about this, you're going to get so much stick for the fact that the rent prices are high. They're going to be telling you, oh, I'm not paying that sort of money. Oh, that's ridiculous. What the hell's wrong with you? And you're going to get, you want to be abused all day? Fine. Promote prices that are reasonably priced and you won't have this issue. If you're going to continue to rent properties at prices that are way too high, expect to have a hard time. And if you will find someone who will rent your apartment, that's great. Lucky you. But I'm sorry, if you've had to basically go through a vast majority of people just to get one person who can afford it, I don't know why you're doing this job, because you're not helping people. You're just helping yourself, and that's selfish. That's what it boils down to. So the purpose of this video was just basically to say that the prices in Cluj have gone up too much. They've gone up way too much, and the only way we can change this is one of two ways. Either the owners of the agents realize that they need to lower the price in order to have a steady income, in order to build this city into a more desirable, more happy place to live, or they can just eat their. Option number two is that the people that rent the apartment choose not to rent these ridiculously high prices and make the owners and agents see sense. The vast majority of people in Cluj do not earn an IT wage, and even if they did earn an IT wage, that IT wage is still less than other European countries, so it's still not fair to charge normal European rent prices to someone just because they work in IT. It's a small percentage of people. And this city is never going to be full just of IT people. But if you continue to hire the rent like this and aim it towards foreign students who have disposable incomes to spend money where they shouldn't be spending it, or IT professionals exploiting them so that they have to pay more on their rent, makes it less worth working in IT, don't you think? If they have to spend the same sort of percentage on their salary on rent, that if they were to live anywhere else in the European Union, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't stay. If I had the option to move, earn a higher wage and get a lower rent in a country which is, Romania, it has some trouble. I mean, right now we've got people protesting the streets because of the government going crazy. There are plenty of other opportunities, and some of you may just say, well, go off and leave there. But that's not the answer, because if everybody does that, you're not getting your rent paid, are you? So, problem number one. Problem number two. You're affecting the base level by increasing the rent and targeting it towards people that earn high incomes, because the whole base goes up. Apartment that was rent, you know, 300 euros, now 370. Perfect example. That rent went up for what reason? No reason. And guess what? I earn an average, I'd say an average Romanian wage for Cluj. I had to move because I couldn't afford it. And in the end, I ended up moving back to Cluj because I found someone who was actually willing to rent for a reasonable price. Otherwise, I hated living here. I genuinely considered leaving Romania because the difference between what I had and what I ended up with was so extreme in such a short period of time that I felt like I was being ripped off. I thought that somebody's just getting at me because they think I have money because I work for a good company. I don't work in IT. I work in customer care, like a lot of other people, serving your tables or answering phones on behalf of someone. That's the vast majority of the population here. And I couldn't afford to live at 370. So I had to move. And that's not fair. You're risking damaging your own country and the own people that have been here for years. 5 years I've been in Romania, 4 years in Cluj. And I had to move. I had less disposable income than when I got here. And I did nothing better than get better jobs year on year and get more money year on year, but I still had less. Go figure. Where's the common sense in that? I'll tell you who had more. You guys. Because you were raising the rent prices so much. Anyway, this video is already getting on too long. The main thing is, students, do not be renting rental prices. Don't be renting properties at rental prices that are too high, okay? Start renting it, what I've said. Yeah, 2-room apartment, 250 to 270 outside the city centre. That's fine. 3-room apartments, okay, looking around 320 to 350. If it's any more than any of these, then it has to be something very special. And I mean special. So get that into your heads. Start regulating the market from where you're standing. Don't let the agents, don't let the owners dictate the way the market's going to go. Supply and demand is one thing, return on investment is another. If you make a poor investment decision as a property owner, that's your problem. Don't pass your bad decision making on to someone else who can afford to pay for your mistake. You made that decision, live with it. And supply and demand. There's always going to be a demand for properties in Cluj. That demand is going to shrink. Supply, well, you've got Florești. You've got other areas around the city. There's always going to be supply of properties in Cluj. It's not okay to be driving people out of the city because you think, oh, well, someone else will take it. Yeah, someone else will take it, and they'll leave. And someone else will take it, and they'll leave. And they'll leave because they can't afford it, because probably year on year you want to jack up the rents. Stop being selfish. That's what it is. For renting that property. Chances are you probably didn't even declare your contract. So that's a whole different matter. If you want to talk with someone about that, then don't talk with me because I don't have a clue about that sort of stuff. But if you declare your contract, good. You're being a law-abiding citizen. Especially if you're charging a good rent, you're almost 100% of the way there. Happy days. If you're renting a property at an extortionately high value and you haven't even bothered to declare your contract, then I'm sorry. But you have no place in this society as far as I'm concerned. You should leave this city because you're contributing towards the decline of this city. That's my opinion. That's what I think. I'm no expert, but I've been living here long enough to know what is and what isn't okay. The way the rent prices are right now are not okay. Thank you for watching.